Courts do not have jurisdiction. Well, what does that mean to you? Let's get to Roger Kirby, who is partner at Kirby McKinney. He joins us live from New York. Roger, do you consider this a landmark case, and does it have implications for investors who buy stocks listed on the New York Stock Exchange?
Well, it is a very important case, and it is a landmark case in many ways. And what it means, really, is that if you are a foreign investor, let me back up for a second. What you said, this is not a decision that the courts don't have jurisdiction. It's a decision that the statute does not permit persons who buy securities on exchanges that are not American exchanges to come into the United States courts. So what it means is that if you are an investor in any country, whether it's the United States or any other country, and you have a choice to buy securities on a foreign exchange or on a U.S. domestic exchange, you need to buy them on the U.S. domestic exchange to get the full protection of the securities laws. What is not so clear from the decision, but remains a possibility for certain kinds of investors, is that even without the securities laws, very large foreign investors who purchase securities away from the U.S. exchanges can, circumstances allowing, come into the state courts of the United States and prosecute their claims there.
Roger, that's all very well going forward, but the case we've just been talking about dates back a long time, and I almost have to stretch my memory to think of the home side lending debacle for National Australia Bank now. So what does that mean? Are there a lot of investors potentially exposed who haven't bought stocks through the domestic US market?
I'm sorry, you have to say that again. The connection's not that great.
Does this mean that those investors who over the course of several years who've bought assets in the US but haven't actually bought them through the US exchange now are potentially exposed, or is there a way around it from those investors still?
Yeah, if you bought securities in an issuer that on an exchange other than an American exchange, you cannot come into the federal courts of the United States and take advantage of the federal securities laws. You can, however, come into the state courts of the United States and take advantage of the state court laws. And without going through too much detail on that, eventually you can take those state law claims and prosecute them in a federal court. Now, the problem with that is that it's a much more cumbersome device, and it's one that's available only really to really large investors, people who've lost a considerable amount of money who can justify an individual cause of action. Because as a practical matter, it's going to be somewhat difficult to bring a class action through this state common law mechanism. And what that means is that a byproduct of the Morrison decision, the one you've been talking about, is that it makes it more difficult for small investors to recover money when they've been aggrieved by fraud across the international markets.
Okay, so simple question.
The case itself.
Yeah, so Roger, listen, simple question. If you're an investor and you get the short end of the stick, what do you do? What can you do?
It depends on where you acquired the stick. I mean, if you acquired the stick in on an American stock exchange, you can go about your business as you always have. You can use a federal securities law to go into a federal court. If you acquired your stick on a foreign exchange, other conditions permitting, you can still come into a federal court of the United States, but now you're using a slightly more cumbersome but still available state law cause of action. That, as a practical matter, will be much more beneficial to a large foreign investor than to a small foreign investor. Okay, so the short of it is, the U.S. courts are not closed off to foreign investors, but the way you get into the courthouse is different.
Yeah. Okay, interesting stuff. Listen, Roger, thank you for the time and for talking to us. Roger Kirby there, live from over in New York at the NASDAQ market site.